So look, Jiu-Jitsu is fucking mental. It is chaos. People are trying to choke you to death.
If somebody comes to me, what do you do? And I go, I'm a Jiu-Jitsu coach, and they're going, what the hell is Jiu-Jitsu? Involuntary yoga. Somebody explained it to me one time. They're saying you're getting bent and twisted and controlled and being held down by someone who's probably half your size, a wee nerd. Not bad, but it's a very nerdy sport, like, against the big egotistical bodybuilder who can be held down saying, calm down, we're going to start this out. Like, I'm going to get a hold of you, and I'm going to either tie you in knots that you're going to either, you can't breathe. If you move, you're going to break your arm, going to break your leg, or I'm just going to basically hold you down and pin you to the mat till whatever time I feel, right, you've calmed down, I want to lift you up. Like.
So once you get the hand up, get it up.
So Jiu-Jitsu is controlling somebody, taking them to the ground and submitting them against their will. That's as simple as I can put it.
It's a puzzle. It's like you're trying to solve a puzzle, right? That's constantly moving in front of you, and the puzzle is also trying to, break your limbs. So it's physical and it's mental. Like, so there's something about it. Like, what is it about something like putting a pair of pajamas on and wanting to sort of get in and roll with somebody? It's just fun. Like, if you try to look at it too much, I think you would take the fun of it. But for me, it's like that. Trying to outsmart someone physically. You know what I mean? It is like what they call human chess, and it's much more fun to do than watch. Because I get this all the time. Like, I would get people who come to the club maybe that boxed and they want to try about MMA, and then you start wrestling with them or grappling with them, and they're like, "Man, I didn't understand how tiring this was, how technical it was, what it's like when somebody puts, good tight side control on you or a bit of pressure."
The sport of Jiu-Jitsu is bending somebody to your will without using strikes.
The thing that makes it so interesting is the aliveness to it. Nothing is exactly the same twice. So as people change, as your partners change, as the slight degrees change in your joints and your angles and stuff, I think the aliveness to it and the ever-changing aspect to the sport is what makes it interesting. But it's a grappling-based sport with a million different branches that can spawn off from every other branch, and I think that's why it has a lot of longevity and coming back to it, because it's never quite done.
Jiu-Jitsu is highly addictive. They should make it illegal, I think. The amount of people, probably yourself included, who went in and said, I'll do one night, and then 15 years later they're doing 4 nights a week. They've lost 2 marriages. Their kids don't talk to them. It should be a fun thing to do to start off with, but it should also be challenging. It should make you think all the time.
It doesn't matter your background, your colour, your gender, your ethnicity, your financial details, your whatever it is, it doesn't matter, because when you're on the mat, all that matters is your skills, and that's that. It seems so cliche to say that, but it's so true. Is it, if you're a lawyer and I'm someone who's battling addiction, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters in that moment is what we do on the mat. Our backgrounds is non-consequential at that point. So it's a leveler for that. I'm friends with people maybe I would never have met outside of this, and they help me so much in life off the mat and different aspects. I've built so many bonds with people. Just because I'm a black belt on the mat and I know a wee bit about Jiu-Jitsu, it doesn't mean I'm a black belt in other aspects of life. You know what I mean? So I'm willing to learn from everybody. My name is Mark McLaughlin. I'm the head coach of Team Torres Derry, and I'm a second-degree black belt. In my mid-20s, I qualified as a school teacher, and I was in England. And I seen the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu scene there. I never got on it there because I was so busy. We were 7 days a week doing the PGCE, teaching and trying to get everything else done on assignment. When I got home, I'd noticed in my home gym, a bodybuilding gym, the guys had mats out on a Saturday and they were training. Well, what was then Jiu-Jitsu, but now it was very beginnerish. So I hopped on one day on a Saturday, used to train for an hour and a bit. I knew absolutely nothing, and then it was very rough and ready. I was that type of character. I was intrigued by it. I didn't care about the physicality. I just wanted to get into something new, and I knew straight away it worked.
Nice shot, good. What I say, I just want to see finishes from single leg kicks. So we're single leg kicks. Years ago, you'd looked at Jiu-Jitsu as it was a self-defense sport, but now it's become a sport of its own. Like there's almost 3 different types of Jiu-Jitsu. There's MMA Jiu-Jitsu, there's self-defense Jiu-Jitsu, and then there's sport Jiu-Jitsu. The 3 of them all overlap at points, but if you tried to do like a sport Jiu-Jitsu and an MMA sentence, you're going to get your head caved in. If you try and do an MMA Jiu-Jitsu in a self-defense case, you're probably going overkill. Whereas if you have a self-defense Jiu-Jitsu, it's basically controlling your distance, time or space, and getting up and retreating.
Hey, go ahead, every 2 minutes, I'll be on with you, so hurry on. Right, my name's Rodney Moore. I run Next Generation Northern Ireland in Ballymena. We've been doing MMA, I go 22 years, 21 years, sorry, 2002. I'm a black belt under Chris Brennan of Next Generation. What brought me to Jiu-Jitsu? Watching UFC 1, seeing Hoist Gracie just doing what he done to everybody, and it was always that old pub question, would a karate boy beat a boxer and would whatever do that? And I remember watching it. We all done the door back then, and there was an old weights jam, just the old iron metal clanking old school jam with a punch bag hanging in it, and all the doormen all trained there, and at VHS tapes back then. I remember the boy that owned the jam says, "Here, check this stuff out," and I remember watching it and thinking, holy shit, man. I'm sure that was 95, 96. I just done like boxing, JKD, Cali Eskrima, all like a lot of traditional type martial arts. Up to that, and then I went over to America, January 2000, and tried out a couple of jams over there. And then there's this one jam just because the head coach was under Dan Anasanto. I thought, well, that's an affiliate of Bruce Lee, so probably legit enough. Just it was Valley Judo or no holds barred. We just called, and that was a Friday night class. And I remember going to it, and I thought I could handle myself. And I get beat from arsehole to breakfast, and I just blew my mind. Took down armbar, took down, choked, guillotine choke, everything, mount, I'm just pounded, armbarred, whatever. And then I just went home that night and went, fuck. And they gave me a hard time, because I remember after it, the next I came back the next morning, they thought they'd never see me again. I was the first boy back, 9:15 the next morning for a next class. And now knowing them all looking at me thinking, that fucker's mad, like I got hammered last night back again. But that was me hooked. I trained morning, noon and night for, what, a year and 9 months, nearly 2 years I was over there, because I was always stand up to there, and then the wee bit of the wrestling and stuff. And then the way just, like I was 15 and a half, 16 stone probably then as well, and guys half my weight, just tying me about in knots, and just blew my mind. I was like, fuck. And then that was me hooked. I get out from here, done my right grab, take it back, so they can't stay, my white block. The hip, he can't set up, and this toe, I turn it in this way.
Yeah, so steer with your head. Like, it's a bit of a weird. In Jiu-Jitsu there are 5 belts: white, blue, purple, brown, black. White belt being the very first belt that you get. Like generally it's going to come with a gi that you buy. Then after that you should receive all your belts instead of obviously buying them. White belt is that kind of basic learning techniques, maybe don't really know how to piece them together yet. And then blue belt, you start to build that game a little bit.
You will wait, you'll get your purple belt. Your purple belt is your fun belt. That's where you attack, that's where you chain things together. That's where you start to set traps. So after purple belt, you get your brown belt. Brown belt is where you introduce another couple of submissions. So you now have twist and footlocks, you have muscle crushes you can do. You should be as well-rounded as you're ever going to be once you get the brown belt. So you spent white belt moving, blue belt defending, purple belt starting to attack. Brown belt is where you should be able to dominate most people in the ring. Whether that's just from patience, pure technique, experience, and you're on to black belt, where you start all over again, where you think you thought you knew everything, and you get your black belt and you feel a little, I don't know, it's a strange belt to have.
Everybody's got that now, so we have landed on our feet. I think brown and black are that more kind of like, you've got a deeper understanding, but you also can kind of feel like you're totally starting again, because now you're seeing everything from like a new perspective. Like a black belt to a white belt is going to seem like a totally mythical creature because they know all these things that the white belt doesn't know. Another good way I think to put it is like a black belt is just someone that has constantly made mistakes over and over and over again until they don't make them anymore. Yeah, when you see someone that is really high level, generalising black belt as an example, the only reason they are good at that thing is because they've done it wrong, like so many times. And I think that's important for people starting out as well, because you might see those people that are higher level and think they don't make mistakes, but like the only reason they are where they are is because they started at the bottom as well.
Between belts, it can take a year, 2 years, 3 years. There's no strict syllabus, which I really enjoy that about this martial art, because every other martial art has a grading syllabus and has a certain amount of moves you have to get. I think in Jiu-Jitsu, it's an impossible thing to do. Okay, so now I'm up in the combat base.
My name's Ryan Roddy. My gym's called Yoda Martial Arts in Tunbridge. I'm 33 and I'm a brown belt.
He is, but wish you just fucking stay in the car.
Grew up in a fairly rough estate sort of environment, and I was going to a lot of fights as a kid. I actually took a lot of beatings as a kid, like quite a young child. So I think from really early on, there was like this idea in my head that you had to be able to defend yourself. And like I used to watch like action movies and stuff, and just think that was cool that they could fight. My mum was also like a little bit into martial arts at that time, and I just kept thinking about it. Like I'd always like get books in the library on martial arts, and then I would go back and forward to classes all through childhood, different types of classes, and boxing and judo and karate. But I never really stuck like too tightly in anything. When I was 16, I found MMA. The first night, it was like there was like me before that class and then me after that class, basically. So it was like a watershed moment where, oh, that's what's missing. Do you know what I mean? I felt like someone was missing the whole time, and that kind of filled that hole. And naturally, when I was doing MMA, I just like got more and more into all the different martial arts, and then I happened to like gravitate towards submissions and takedowns and stuff, and then I was like, oh, that's cool. Jiu-Jitsu was a natural follow-on. You know, you start finding out about MMA, and then next thing you know, you hear about really Hoist Gracie and all that.
Cross, not bad. Ryan, let's give it a go. Square up for him, shit.
So I went to England for university, but mainly to train. So I kind of picked my university options based on what I thought training would be like. I did a degree, but like it was 90% training, 10% study. I ended up in Newcastle in England, and I had a great time there. We trained non-stop, and a great group of training partners. Like it was unbelievable talent. And then I needed money after uni, so I got a job in the door, as tends to happen with guys like to fight MMA. So we ended up working in the door with the same guys. So we would work all night, we would get up and we'd train all day, and we'd go back to work again. I'm saying to my girlfriend, my wife now, I was like, look, I'm not going to make another single pound from anything in martial arts. I don't care if I have to just go poor, I don't care, I'm not making one more pound. So I didn't renew my door license, I had no money coming in, and I sat down that day, it was mid-January, and I just said, I am not going to make one single pound from another source than martial arts. And that was when I was like 23, and I haven't just 10 years ago. For the first 2 weeks, I ended up sleeping in the gym, and I didn't tell anybody, so I just take all the classes, I would mop the mats, I would close the shutters, right? Get the metro into the town, eat Nando's every night. Get the metro straight back, and then I'll sneak in, close the shutters again, sleep on my sleeping bag on the mats, and then I'll get up super early, because they'd be coming early, right? So I'll get up super early, I would fucking close the shutters again, I would act like I wasn't there, and then I'll come in at 8 o'clock, because hey, how's it going? I had nowhere else to go. That was like the make or break. Around 28, I just really wanted to come home and do my own thing, but I had no training partners, or at least none that were local to me. So I was like, oh, what the fuck am I going to do now? So I just thought, you know, I'm going to open a gym, and I'm going to train people, and I'm going to get them as good as possible, as fast as possible, so I have people to roll with. That was literally my only motivation. So I got home on the Friday, and I think by Monday I had a class started, and I just started teaching right away. 2 weeks after that, I found a premises. So I got home, it was like 15, 16 days later, I had a premises, and then I just bought a pile of old mats and just put them in a square. People just started turning up. The plan was, I need training partners right now. I left England where I had 9 years of knew everybody all over England, all over the north of England, all different training, could go anywhere, black belts, whatever. I came home and it was like there was nothing, you know. There was literally nobody close. I had to travel everywhere and it was too hard. So I was like, I need to get. I could have traveled. I could have traveled all around the north, but then you're always gonna be limited by that travel aspect. And I thought, in 5 years' time, wouldn't it be cool if I had a bunch of purple belts? And now I've got 3 homegrown. and they're all really, really high level, and you know, give me tough rounds, and that's it. That's all I wanted. It's never been about like anything other than my training, which is a bit mad.
The more I'm thinking about it lately, the more I'm thinking like for kids and stuff, it's like aspirational. Like, you know, they're like, cool, I can actually achieve some stuff, you know what I mean? Because I never talk about anything that I've won or anything, and, you know, moving to a running bit, sitting underneath, do it on the move now, right? Once you get the idea, you feel confident, do it on the move. He definitely should be doing this. You might still need another few reps of the first one, but it just depends.
We document everything, every lesson, every single bit of it. Whoops. I make stupid notes as I go along. So everything's in.
Do you think that's what helps you refine your techniques?
I think when you're planning a class, I like to try and stay on a theme for maybe a month and try to attack it from every angle, be it first of all how to get into it, the basic way of doing it, and then sort of how to counter it, and then how to make it better, how to strengthen it up, you know, so if someone's trying to counter, where's the next position? So yeah.
My name is Peter Lavery. I am the head coach of Fusion Jiu-Jitsu in Belfast. I am 54 years old. I have been training in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu since, God, 96, I'd like to say. I can't remember, it's been an awful long time. I'm a second degree black belt under the BJJ Revolution. I was already training in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and I was introduced to Carly Gracie through my coach then, Ross Inacaro. My brother phoned me and he said, there's a guy on this video doing that nonsense that you do. And I was like a purple belt in Japanese Jiu-Jitsu. So he shows me the UFC video. It's House Gracie obviously doing his thing, and I'm like, that's nothing like I do, you know, but then you were kind of fascinated by it. I think that sort of piqued the interest. Once we started training sort of with Carly, doing some of the ground stuff that he was teaching, and I think I just got hooked on it, and I just wanted to learn more. So after a while, we stopped training in the Japanese stuff and concentrated solely on Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Then we all had to kind of learn from books and magazines, and you know, there was no, strange, no internet then, no YouTube, so usually we're sort of pulling things out of magazines and trying to do them. But it got really interesting. The first proper Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu club that I can know of was Gracie Bar and Graham Keys and Alan Lowry and the like. And they were in one room at Maysfield Leisure Centre, and I was in the other one, you know, doing my Japanese one and trying to do Brazilian stuff that I'd learned out of a magazine.
You are determined to get on my I'm determined to break that little club. It's not happening.
I think we all were SBG, we all joined, because it was the first team. Again, John was a friend of mine, Andy was a friend of mine, you know. So these are the people that I went toward. I think for me, starting at white belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to get my black belt was like 17 years. It took a long. It's great that guys coming through now, and Ireland, north and south, the whole island's full of talent. Some really, really good guys. They're going to get promoted a hell of a lot quicker than we did. You know, and I don't begrudge it. I don't begrudge it in the slightest, because the simple fact is, it shows that the game has evolved.
He's trying to bargain you to train.
I'm Andy Chapman. It has to give you my age. I'm 42 years old, and I'm the coach at Team Reino Limavady. I'm a brown belt under Andy Ryan. I don't hide that I'm a big advocate for trying to promote men's mental health. It's not that I don't want women to have sound mental health as well, but there is a problem, and I don't know whether things like the COVID lockdowns and things like that's just amplified things, but the dogs in the street, everybody knows that mental health in general is not great for a lot of people, and I can't shout loud enough about how good it is as a sport to improve your mental health for so many different reasons. Like the thinking element, and there's nothing that brings you into the present more than the threat of somebody choking you or arm barring you. But it's not even that, it's a community of people that all think the same. So I used to do powerlifting and got really sick with hyperthyroidism, so I was like losing a lot of weight and the strength went down. I felt so down about it. And my brother-in-law, Jason McCabe, he's a black belt in Derry. He sort of knew that I was a wee bit down and he says, why don't you come and try a BJJ class? And I had no interest at all. This is like nearly 8 years ago now. So I went on down anyway just to pacify him. It was just a godsend that Jason was there and offered that at the time. And I just got hooked on it straight away because it was something I thought, this is something I can do now for a while. I can't compare it to anything else. It's like, and I'll shout about it and I'll pass the baton as best I can for the rest of my life because it saved me. We talked about a time where I was definitely not in a very good place. So like I almost feel as if I owe it to the sport now to pass it on to other people and pay it forward. It's like literally the best thing that I've done for my life, outside having kids. In case I fucking If the opponent manages to get a knee frame in from side control, you have options here that you can either come through and then scarf hold after the razor lock. So like, you always have to be prepared to go limp with the arm as you're doing it. So if you don't to jump that razor lock, they're bowled straight back down again.
Jiu-Jitsu is for everybody, but it's not for everybody. It's kind of like, I think everybody needs that touch, that physical touch, and I think especially men and boys, I think we need that outlet of aggression. It's in us, and it's even in people that you wouldn't think. Like I see guys come in here and they're quiet and they're reserved. You put them in a bad spot on the bottom, you see the fight come out of them, you know, in men and women. But I think it's for men, we need it. Let's just be civil in all other walks of life. My name is William Timoney and I'm a black belt under Hillian Gracie Ireland, and I started training 10 years ago. I had no idea what it was. I knew what the UFC was, like everyone. I was in a fitness gym in Donegal Town, and upstairs they were doing MMA and Jiu-Jitsu, but I just thought it was MMA at the time. So they advertised a beginner's course in May 2014 and I signed up to do it. I missed the first class and I kind of thought, oh, Brian's going to think I'm just like everyone else. Oh, I'll do it, and then it comes to it. They don't show up. So I was leaving the gym one day, I was doing like a workout in the fitness gym downstairs, and I was walking out the door and the hand on the door, and I hear Brian behind the desk go, are you not doing the Jiu-Jitsu now? It was my first experience of like being arm barred and come over. Like it was maybe 18 or 19 other beginners in the room. A few of the guys, they knew what the name of the moves were, they knew what the techniques were, you know, from watching the UFC, and I was just like, I have no idea what this is, you know. So I'd done this 6 weeks and I didn't miss another class. There was maybe 7 or 8 guys who trained every evening. We were fed in with everybody else. So at that time there was no fundamentals class or beginners class or advanced class. The introduction was, we were the fresh meat. It was me, it was, out of the 18, it was maybe 6 of us that stayed. You're just being passed around, you know. There was a lot of guys competing there at the time. You know, Brian would have been, geez, he would have been flat out every other week doing a competition. So it was like hard training. It was baptism of fire, really. You know.
I don't want you to pull away and up. Yes, see the way you take his hand up, you leave his hand down.
My name is Justin McGibbon. I'm a black belt under Hobson Moura. My team itself is now called Defiant. I've been training now for 16 years in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but in martial arts my entire life. So a good friend of mine at the time, well, a mutual friend of a good friend of mine at the time, took me to Hodger Gracie's gym, and you know, I reluctantly went, and I just got my butt kicked so bad by some Australian dude, and I was like, that's never happening again. Needless to say, I've been beat up by a lot of Australians since then, but anyway, it sparked the interest in me. Having somebody control me to that degree, with me feeling that helpless, I was just like, this is madness. I felt like that's something I needed to really try and figure out how to gain some of that power back, you know. Having that control over someone is pretty spectacular. I have a number of guys that have come to me trying to fit Jiu-Jitsu around their lifestyle more now. So changing jobs just to fit Jiu-Jitsu in because they realize just how important the mental health side of it is for them, because you know, a lot of times they were just going on the weekend drinking, waking up, going through the mundane task of Monday, go back to work, go to sleep at night, come back to the same day, do the same thing every single day, you know. Whereas here they're kind of put into an environment where they're able to switch off from reality, in the sense that they have to focus on what's in front of them. They can't think about the problems at work, they can't think about the problems in their home, and so that side allows them some relief from the day-to-day stresses, you know. We've had guys in here who have given up alcohol, who have been borderline alcoholics, say, look, I was on a trajectory to be an alcoholic, and this has literally saved me because now I don't drink it anymore because it affects my training. You know, so their focus has shifted so much, and the paradigm shift has been amazing for them, you know. For anyone who comes in and tries it, they get to experience what it's like to basically learn through play and have the opportunity to like test themselves physically, mentally, all the time. It's not like anything I've ever done before personally either, because every day there's a different challenge in front of you, there's a different problem. Somebody does something different in a situational environment, you know, or sparring session, and you have to react there and then. You don't have time to go, oh, well, I'll think about this for 5 minutes and then process that thought.
Typical Jiu-Jitsu person, definitely a few screws loose in their head. That's a given. Definitely hard working has to be a part of it. You have to be like driven as well, like want to improve. Also, not a big ego. People like come in here with a big ego, it's not going to last because they're not going to see immediate improvement. It's going to take at least 6 months before you can even like survive like a minute against even like a white belt who's been there a wee while longer. Certain people can just see things to like a better detail than others. You need to be like obsessed in a way. I suppose just obsession over something, like if you're like the type of person who's going to get obsessed really quickly with it, yeah, you'll stick at it more.
No, I'm going to disagree with that. I've seen just like a full spectrum of people. Like I would say the most common person that it attracts is actually not necessarily to do with like someone who might like think a certain way, but I think the person that it actually attracts in an adult sense, right, which is where most of your members come from, are people that want to do sports, right, and they want to exercise. So I don't think it's necessarily about like having like everyone that does jiu-jitsu is autistic and ADHD. I think it's more like you have adults that want to take up sport, and it's very hard to take up other sports as an adult. You know, like if I wanted to take up football tomorrow and I just turned up to a football club, they'd be like, what are you doing? You know, like, this isn't how this works, sort of thing. So the thing I see the most is just adults that are kind of looking for something new to do. And the ones that I think stay are the ones that like to figure out puzzles. And I don't think that, or like to figure out the why is this working and why is this not working. And I don't know if that's necessarily, like I've seen just some really normal people and I've seen some loopers.
Okay, seeing partners on your knees. Take your partner to the ground, you must get in the right position and hold it. So like they stop. Go!
Everyone's weird. Like, even people who seem normal, whenever they come in after a while, like once the adults come in and then they realize that it's okay to have a bit of crack, and then the face slips, you realize that everybody's fucking weird. And sometimes it gets out of control, to be honest. Like, sometimes you kind of wish they put the mask back on. Like, it does go down that way. I think when you're living in the jiu-jitsu martial arts landscape as deeply as I am for so long, I have very little concept of what it's like not to be one of these guys. I just feel like that's totally normal. Like, why wouldn't you want to train twice a day, 6 days a week? Who doesn't? Then when I find out people talk to people and they're like, no, that's absolutely mental. Especially people get really into it, are definitely not normal. Not a bad way.
I have people that can't make eye contact with people in the gym, but you can get them to berimbolo after showing them once. I have people that struggle to speak to others, because of nerves, anxiety, or being on the spectrum, but they can chain moves together like it's a dance for them, and they just pick it up. They can see where everything's going, I can show these select group of people, here's what we're going to start on, and by the time everybody's doing it, they've got it, they're actually moving to the next step, knowing that that's the right way to go. I sometimes have to stop them and slow them down and say, look, you're taking away from the class here, I'm about to show that. Any sport or any activity where you have to think and use your body at the same time is going to benefit anybody, whether you're on any kind of spectrum.
I actually think the beauty of it is that it doesn't have to be a very specific type of person, and you get this really odd intermingling on the mats. So like, there's so many people in there that I would never be friends with. Not because I don't mean like I would never be friends with them because I don't like them. I would just like, we just wouldn't cross paths. I feel like the majority of our members are actually, if we're gonna go on a stereotype, are like in their 30s and working in tech. Do you know? But then there's a lot of people that aren't like that, and it's like funny. And then there's a lot of guys that are in trades, and it's like funny watching them like intermingle and stuff. And it's like, you two wouldn't ever speak to each other outside of this, you know, now you're good friends.
Oh, Lisa, you're going down. Did you get the mount? Don't let her get the mount.
We've had little scrawny kids that you would never have thought would stick anything out, become some of the best competitors in our gym, train more and more than anyone else, and just looking at them you think like they're never going to stick it out. Even down to some of the other people that came in, you just sort of look at them and be like, why are you trying this? It's like you're never going to stick at it, and they are the ones that put the work in, they grind, and it's mental. You get the people that come in who are naturally athletic, have a wee bit of a background in something, but they don't like being put on the back foot and they can't stick it. Generally it's the people that have been used to being on the back foot and have been put down. They do a lot better in this sport, I find, than the ones that are used to winning. That competitive side might get some people through, but the person that's generally had a rough time and things haven't been well, they kind of stick to it a bit better, I find. Try to be a positive atmosphere where not everyone's putting you down, saying you're shit, you can't go out and do that. It's trying to build people up and keep that momentum going. And you get people coming in here and there's just a shell. They come in, they don't talk to anyone, they're sort of looking down. They're even nervous. You can see whenever they're doing a move that they're shaking, they're that tensed up, they can't do anything. Once you see somebody like doing something absolutely hilariously stupid and you realize nobody cares, like it really brings people out of the shell. And once that happens, that's whenever they get a lot better in this sport. Once you break through that, I don't want to look like I'm going to fucking fail here, I don't want to do this here, like things come a lot easier. Like you need to take the losses with the wins to get better in this.
Let's get as many reps as you can done.
So my name's Adam, I'm 22, I've been training for 4.5 years roughly. First session in BJJ was back in January 2019, so nearly 5 years ago. It was me and a couple of mates. I was like probably one of the most unathletic looking kids ever, like at the time. Like obviously I'm still skinny now, but you look back, I was like, Jesus, he was really skinny. I was also a quiet kid as well, so I suppose, yeah, you wouldn't have thought I would have stayed. I always wanted to do MMA, and my mum was like, I'm never taking you to an MMA class. So as soon as I got my driver's license, in December and then joined in January. So as soon as I had that freedom, I was like, I'm getting into it. So yeah, halfway through 17 probably, yeah. I suppose this is the normal stigma for like fight gyms. People just like see picture like an MMA gym or a boxing gym. You go in and like picture a pile of meatheads trying to just kill you and beat you up the whole time. But like, I suppose it's hard for people who don't know the sport, who have never seen the sport, to understand that like Jiu-Jitsu is different. You're going to come in and people aren't going to try to kill you. You'll get the odd person who's just like that, but the majority of the people in here, like if you roll with any of the higher belts, like for your first 6 months, they're probably going to more so teach you stuff rather than just trying to kill you and sparring and stuff like that. I think she realised pretty quickly that it wasn't just like a boxing gym where you're going to go in and just get the head beat off you essentially. Yeah.
My name's Becca. I run North Coast Grappling in Ballymoney. I'm a brown belt and I've been training for coming up on 10 years now in the summer. I had a form of arthritis, so I was constantly just trying different things. When I had like a checkup with a doctor, basically his one recommendation was try to get stronger, find something that I enjoyed, doing to do that and get as strong as I could and fit as I could, and that would kind of help my joints. I tried kickboxing. They didn't really like the idea of that, with obviously a lot of like impact, like front kicks and things, loads of like impact in my joints. There was a jiu-jitsu club in the same premises, so tried it, didn't have a clue what it was, and then I think, like, I literally didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what BJJ was. I'd never even seen it before. I didn't know it was like that bit in MMA when they're on the floor or whatever. I honestly had no clue. After that class, I still had absolutely no idea what happened, or like couldn't understand it. Whereas when I was turning up to kickboxing, hit some pads, do some sparring, whatever. And then when I came out of the jiu-jitsu class, I was like, I don't know why I was doing that. I don't know what that was for. I still don't understand how it works or why it works. And then I think that could easily put you off or make you want to come back and do it again. So that's what happened with me. I was just like, I want to be able to understand that, because it actually annoyed me that I couldn't understand it. And I was just like, I need to go back and keep saying like what this is about and hopefully make some kind of sense of it. And I still haven't 10 years later. Face on the floor and my elbow is on the mat. From here.
Grab the gi and grab a little bit, whatever you want to do.
Being in jiu-jitsu in like somewhere where it's mostly men on the mat is the only place that I actually haven't had any like sexual harassment ever. And I'm talking like school, work, walking down the street. Again, I think it comes down to ego, because if you're feeling big and ballsy and you're like shouting at a woman who's on her own, maybe walking, and you're acting the big lad, you can't really do that in the gym. There's going to be someone that will put you in your place very quickly. So that just, I feel like, gets knocked out of people. Or like the girls will all kind of like agree amongst themselves. There'll just be like an unwritten code that everyone's like, yeah, we just don't roll with him. I think around like age 14 to 16 is usually the most common age where girls seem to like fall away from sport. But now with more women in the sport, like they should always have like a kind of role model to look up to. Like maybe before, if it's all men on the adult mat, they don't even see like there could be me in the future. Like it's all men rather than have a woman over there. Whereas now, I actually find like a lot of the mums, if their kid does jiu-jitsu and they want to understand it, they'll try and do it as well. Or there's just, in general, there's more women training. So they have that kind of role model and like people to look up to now, where maybe they didn't have that before. Even people in the sport as well, like say like Fionn Davies, just as an example, is like always going out and displaying jiu-jitsu, and like her character is like really nice and humble and like hard working. It's not like there's trash talk and all that other kind of carry on that comes with sport. So I think especially like it's quite exciting for like younger girls, because they probably just have a bit more support now than there would have been maybe even like 10 years ago. Coming up from like kind of childhood into like teen years, jiu-jitsu is going to be really beneficial for girls. Even like I know, I wish like I had like the confidence and stuff going through school that I have now. Even things like getting into like relationships and stuff for the first time, like a lot of that, like even just having the confidence to stand up for yourself and say, no, I don't want that, or this is what like the kind of path I want to go down instead. That does all kind of come from jiu-jitsu and having like always being faced with conflict or always being faced with a kind of problem you have to solve. So I definitely think for young girls coming up, like growing into women, like they have so many more opportunities, because they will probably be like pretty much fearless from having like been exposed to that from like a young age.
Cross training for me is essential. It's very important that you see different environments, different teaching styles, different games, different intensities, different approaches to the techniques that you already think you know. The more you get exposed to that, the faster the learning process is, if you have the mindset for learning and not taking it as a negative whenever things don't go well. So for me, cross training is a big thing. I've always did it. Encourage all my guys and girls to go and cross train at different gyms.
I heard a thing recently, and a few gyms in America have issued this same statement, that their students aren't allowed to cross train. This isn't my job. I don't do this for a living. So with that regard, I can kind of afford to not worry as much of how many people come through the door. You know, I don't mind that, you know, but anybody who does it for a living, that's their job, and they have to get numbers through the door, and they have to promote it, and they have to, you know, I can see where the worry of people leaving or people, you know, of them not getting those monthly fees. And
like, I can teach something a certain way because of my size, you know, and I know we always chat in Jiu-Jitsu that size doesn't matter and the smaller guy beats the bigger guy. 100%. The smaller guy is better at Jiu-Jitsu and the bigger guy he's going to beat him. I will say this, I think sometimes people think loyalty, you know, there's this kind of blind loyalty of like, oh, my coach will be annoyed if I go and train with this person. I think if you're open to your coach, go, here, I'm going to be in Belfast today, I'm going to go and train this place. I think most coaches are 100% with that. But then there's a new kind of age of where they look at Craig Jones and they look at Gordon Ryan, they look at different guys and the way they perceive and the way they carry themselves, and it's like, oh, you shouldn't tie yourself to any team, you should go where all the good jiu-jitsu is. If you're training with me 4 or 5 days a week, but then you're doing 4 or 5 days somewhere else, are you my student or are you this guy's student? I think that's where the lines get blurred. You know, you go to a competition, you representing me, am I training you to fight one of my guys? I think sometimes that's where you might get a bit of, you know, you can't be training there.
If I had gyms in my head that I have been to and I'm like, that's class, they've also had a very open door. I don't think your gym's ever gonna get worse by having a good open door policy, and I want guys here to go train. And other gyms as well, I think you can, like, a lot of the best lessons I've had or the best like development jumps is because I've gone somewhere for a week or 2 weeks and trained.
I think that there's great about the sport now because this here country in general is just becoming so much more welcoming and opening, and people, our coaches are really opening up to each other and training with each other more.
The girls are starting to get it a wee bit here. I've noticed that because girls are starting to cross-train a wee bit more, and they have to, when they go to other gyms, and they can see, oh right, I'm getting somebody my own size, I understand how it feels, and they move slightly different because girls will move different to the fellas, and like I say, they're maybe back rolling out of things and far more flexibility, where we just don't have that, and hip mobility to get in and out of things, but so they need to cross-train to get to a decent level. To be honest, like a lot of clubs don't like cross-training. You know, they don't like, oh, I don't want my man going to there, and you know, I don't like, oh, what are you going down to them for? Why is it not good enough that you train? I have no problem. Like, we had fellas here from Belfast on Friday night, with fellas come from Belfast right and regular actually to train with us. With fellas from Ryan Roddy would come down, me and Ryan would have trained together, me and Aaron Devlin's trained together. It's all good because like I say, they're going to bring back different things, and they're going to get different foods because you're always the same people week in, week out. They know your game, you know their game, so it ends up sort of shutting it down a wee bit. Whereas if you're always somebody totally new, you've never seen it before, you don't know what to experience, and it's good, it helps. And like I say, more cross training, the more coaches can get together, and the more we can speak, and the more we can organise things, the better it's going to be for the whole sport as a whole, or get people to a level that we can compete on a world stage. And like I say, it's definitely obtainable, 100%, because the knowledge is there now. The knowledge of jiu-jitsu around here is getting really, really good.
I mean, there are clubs that I probably wouldn't go to because I know of them, and I know that there are good jiu-jitsu here and there's bad jiu-jitsu here. So I wouldn't tell my guys or openly say, go there because it's good, or go there. I wouldn't say good or bad. I say train where you want, see how you feel. If your jiu-jitsu is good enough, then, and you're safe enough in yourself, then you know that they're always going to come back and train with you. I think a lot of times it's, and this is the thing in Northern Ireland, it's still we're at a point where it's very traditionally minded, where loyalty means more than getting better at jiu-jitsu. As a whole, Northern Ireland and Ireland have it's in our own hands. So we can either choose to have a great kind of jiu-jitsu community, or we can do what we've done our whole lives and just bicker amongst ourselves.
I think we need someone to almost sort of tick the realms and say, right, guys, there's around here, there's whatever 4 or 5 black belts around here. There's no reason, and there's 6 different gyms. There's no reason why we can't go, hey, we'll train with you on that month, and we'll train with us, and that month we'll train somewhere else on the month. And that, like, there's no reason why we can't do it. And like, especially, you know, like this should be happening now, coming up to the Europeans, right? throw a wee chat out there. Hey, who's doing the European geese? Right, we're doing them. I'm doing them. Blah, blah, blah. We have 4 people doing them. Right, we'll all start to get together so we can improve and help. Get us all singing off the one hymn sheet, as the man says, just to help every gym. And I think it'll grow the sport everywhere then.
So what we did back in the day when cross-training wasn't available as much as you compete. So you got your information from competitiveness. And when you competed, you done things right, you done things wrong, and then you recorded it, and then you try to improve on that. I think it's still viable.
Whenever I started, there was a lot of like inter-club type competitions. So there was the BJJ the Revolution Cup, which was run by Andy Ryan, would have run one in Belfast, then maybe one in Dublin. They would have had like all the local Rhino members and Revolution members competing against each other, but there wasn't that much to do outside that. There wasn't grappling industries running in, or Empire, or even like a Trident, those like national competitions. None of those existed back then. You know, there was like a couple of national type competitions. There was also like national competitions that have faded away. There was an old Irish national that used to run in Letterkenny. It doesn't happen anymore. But there was like 2 or 3 national competitions a year, but that was it. Now in BJJ, you could compete every other weekend if you wanted. There would be something for you to do every other weekend. It just wasn't like that. That just shows how much the sport's growing.
I'm not a massive high-level competitor. I would never look at myself like that. I enjoy the process, and I kind of like the stress of it. So I like getting into a position where I have to challenge myself. I like the unknown. I think it's character building whenever you, well, obviously you're paying for something to compete, and it's a completely different vibe than it is to doing rolls in the gym. And you'll only ever get that when you pay to do a competition.
It's a good question. I'm not sure, for me, it's the competition that keeps me coming back to it. I'm definitely not one of those people that is like, I love competing, because, but I think the thing that keeps me coming back to competition is if you want to progress yourself, the easiest vehicle to do it in is competition. If you want to progress the gym and you want to progress the community around you, I think if you're not competing, it's not a very honest standard. So I think I just like it for, like, I've never done a competition and come away from it being like, gosh, I regret doing that. You want to prove that you're good to a certain degree, but I don't think, like, I'm not too caught up on the result. Obviously I want to win. If I stop competing, I think I would slowly get better. But then if I keep competing and keep pushing into places where, like, I try to challenge myself to do competitions that are hard as well, you know, so that I'm forced to kind of raise to the level instead of, or not, you know, and lose. But
we do not have enough local competitions. I've introduced Empire over here. You know, the guys have done a really good job at Trident the times that they've done it. But as a community, we can come together and make, you know, reintroduce the NI Open. You know, make it a quality, and it's not a case of just making a competition. You want a competition that will match the likes of the Dublin Open. You want a competition that people will travel to come to, something with a bit of prestige, not in the back of somebody's leisure centre. You want it in a proper venue. They do it in the UK. We can definitely do it here. We have enough people here to run a competition over 2 days, a gi one day and no gi the next. I think without communication, without everybody being on board, it probably won't happen.
The competitions can be a bit expensive. That will be one thing that does annoy me a little bit about the sport, is that it can be a bit pricey in that regard. Rule sets, maybe some of the rules within the sport too, like maybe, but they're there for safety. So you got to let other people sometimes do that thinking. I don't know, man. The sport's growing quickly, so it's obviously doing something right. They've got a good structure in that the white belts compete with each other, and then you move up to blue. Like, so that's where I think sort of maybe it does well as opposed to wrestling. Because if you go into the wrestling room, you just get, you go to your first wrestling competition, you could be stuck on there with the Finnish champion that's over there, and if he doesn't want to go easy on you, he doesn't. So I do actually think there's a good pathway in BJJ, and that's what sucks people in.
Jiu-Jitsu competitions are the only competition you'll go to where the fighter doesn't know the rules, the coach doesn't know the rules, the referee doesn't know the rules. And they're all trying to make it up as they go along. Carlson was very much against this point scoring. You know, he had a thing that was the points were a consequence of going for the submission. So it's a fight. You're there to submit the guy. You're not there to score points and sit back and go, well, that's enough. It was always go for the submission, go for the submission. And if you miss it, then look at your points for that. That's what I don't forget that is actually a fight. That's not a point scoring thing. Go for the submission all the time. I think it was the English opener. He went to Carlson, and he was Carlson's student. He said, I just won gold medal, you know, Carlson went, did you submit him? And he went, no, I won on points. And Carlson went, better luck next time.
There's the fear that competitions become saturated, that there's so many that it dilutes the importance of, for example, medaling, podium. If there's that many competitions that people have a choice to do a competition every other week, what's going to happen is numbers and brackets is going to go way down because people are going to be drifting off in all these different directions to compete. And it used to be if somebody medalled, got a silver medal in a competition, you were like, that's fantastic, that person's had to go through a run to get that medal. Now it's like, I wonder did they lose a first match in a 2-person bracket and won silver. I would fear that the scene would get so diluted that there's too many things for people to do.
I know you can run competitions and charge. I think that's why they do early birds, so they get everybody on board. And then if you don't, you're in like a normal position where they've got a normal price, and then you're late and you get a late entry. Unfortunately, with the likes of smooth comp, it's a double-edged sword. People want to enter because they want to know people are in your bracket, but then people don't want to enter because they know that person's in their bracket. Does that make sense? If it went back maybe a step and you weren't able to see who's in your bracket until maybe a week before, maybe more people would enter. Maybe they wouldn't because they can't see, so it depends on the person, I guess. But you can run a successful competition, still make money on it, but you don't have to charge an exorbitant fee. There are people out there that are doing £75 for gi and no gi. That's ridiculous. Ridiculous. It's not that expensive doing a comp. It's absolutely a profit motive. Yeah, they're not too bothered about growing the community itself as a competitive community. They're enjoying, I mean, I know there's 2 comps that come over here. They come up on the Friday evening, they'll sail over. By Saturday morning, the comp is set up. By Saturday evening, they go out for something to eat and they sail back again with all their stuff in a van. They're not there for building a community. Competitions are there ultimately to make money.
It just keeps getting bigger and bigger. We're getting a lot of people who would never have thought of competing, stepping out and joining in, just because of the rest of the guys going out there and doing it themselves as well, and then they're saying, oh, if they can do it, why can't I?
And again, this year kind of sounds cliche, but it's true. It's very, very true for me. One of my greatest fears is to go through life without ever trying to achieve anything great. And my whole goal is I just want to just literally be the best martial artist that I can be, and for me to do that there, I need to be testing myself against real competition from now until I'm ready to retire from the sport. I just want to just compete and get as much gold medals as possible, and hopefully with the aim of becoming world-class level. And I think with everything that we've achieved here, especially in such short space of time, the sport's so young in this here country. I don't think it's an unrealistic thing to say that there's going to be at least a good couple of guys getting to that there world-class level from Ireland in the near future, and my aim is to hopefully be one of them anyway.
The biggest thing that happens to new people whenever they're trying this is they'll go cross, grab the elbow, pull it down.
When people are trying to fill a hole, right, with junk food or drinking or toxic relationships or, you know, you name the thing, right? Drink, drugs, are the obvious ones. That's just a toxic cycle where they just do that and then they feel a bit better for a while and then there's a bigger come down, and that's just a constant spiral down into worse and worse positions. Whereas when you do jiu-jitsu, you're going to plug a lot of the same holes, in fact most of them, but it's an upward spiral where you slowly build yourself up rather than break yourself down. The key difference between jiu-jitsu or grappling and everything else that you can possibly do is that there's a state of flow that you can get to every single time, almost without fail, that you can very rarely create elsewhere. And the reason that state of flow is there is because you have somebody trying to attack you in a friendly way, which is mad. There's a moment there where you're not thinking about all the other problems in life, and that feeling is almost like it's a moving meditation. But it's not, there's no effort to it, it just happens. And we're all basically searching for that every single time we train. And you might get 5 minutes of it, you might get 30 minutes of it, who knows? That's the feeling that you're chasing, you know. The hardest part about anything, but especially training, is that you have to imagine that it's a big, massive freight train, where the first few meters taking it off is the hardest, but it gets progressively faster and easier to work with the faster it goes. And there's a point where it develops so much momentum that to stop it would be harder than anything else. And so it's just trying to get people over the friction of the first 10 meters of the journey, you know. That's the hard part. And literally it does only get easier from the first minute, you know. The first minute of training is the hardest you'll ever do, you know, mentally and physically. And then it only ever gets easier, which is nice, you know, until the point where it's pretty much all enjoyment at my level, you know. Look, tell me something else ticks all these boxes, okay? You want to get more flexible? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to get stronger? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to get fitter? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to learn how to kill somebody with your bare hands? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to not get killed with your bare hands? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to have a community? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to lose weight? Do Jiu-Jitsu. You want to feel more confident? Do Jiu-Jitsu. Tell me another activity which covers those bases. Tell me. I'll wait. That's it.